Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Motivational Sundays with Kevin and Friends. I am Kevin McLemore. I'm your host, and I am joined with my co-host, the wonderful Andrea Lyman, Mr. David Curtis, Denise Lopes, and sitting in the background is our young scholar at Central State University Historically Black College, Kayla Smith. She is babysitting, but she has decided to join us today. We have some good news that we want to share with our listeners this morning, but let's get to the business at hand. This episode is brought to you by RMK Productions and the 10 United Podcast Network. Our mission is through our power of story. We want to uplift, inspire, share experiences and perspectives using the framework of teaching, learning, and modeling. Our purpose is very simple: hope, helping other people every day. For those of you that are just joining us for the first time, Motivational Sundays was created from more than one of 300 motivational quotes that I had created for the contents of my books. Studying over 40 years human behavior, I was always curious how a quote or conversation landed on someone else other than myself. Were there words that just lay there on a piece of paper, or the conversations to be had? Well, we meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Everyone is welcome to join. We only look for positive conversations and positive people. We don't stay in the negative zone. So each week, one of us brings back a quote. We talk about how it personally lands on us, and based on our perspective and interpretation, each of us goes around the table and we share the quote. So today, I am bringing the quote, and I'm not for sure if it's a quote or just a conversation that needs to be had, but every morning, I journal. So the first thing that I do when I get out of bed, I write down the first thought that comes to my head. Sometimes it's a word that makes no sense. Sometimes it's very profound, depends on whatever my unconscious and conscious brain puts together for that morning. So I know every day we all go through something. I always talk about life is like the ocean coming to the beach. I'll ask yourself if the beach comes to the ocean, or is it the other way around? There's always going to be something that's going to happen in our life. And it's how we deal with our own crap is how the outcome of our life may be. So today, I'm going to start with gratitude. For those of you that don't know what gratitude is, it's you being thankful and ready to appreciate the many gifts and the kindness that's been bestowed upon you. And sometimes those gifts have to be self-imposed on ourselves. So this week, I'm going to share with you. So my quote is, I am grateful that my heart is honest, for I know that I know what I want from this life and will not settle for less. My feelings must be validated and emotions free from any personal drama. To be free, you must own your own mistakes. So the reason why I'm sharing this with you is because I've always said in life, and for those of you that have children, you would understand this. You would never be praised, criticized, or condemned on any level, either be it high or low, or harsher than coming from your own kids. Everything else you can kind of deal with. So I had a very uncomfortable conversation with my youngest son. It was something personal regarding my divorce from his mom and his childhood and so forth. And believe it or not, you got to own your own mistakes. The man that I was 26 years ago and enter into that relationship, I'm not that man that I am today. And so, and the first thing is, when your child is telling you, how he interprets the conversation that one parent has had with him, which I'm a firm believer that conversation between adults should not be shared with conversation with the kids, because their interpretation, they're a lot more fragile than the two adults that participated in it. But I also am self-accountable. I have to own my own shortcomings. And I know that 26 years before today, I would have handled things a little differently than I did then. Now I'm a better man now. And so, the first thing I said, I am free to live my life on my terms, and I own my own mistake. So however someone may crucify you or criticize you and whatever, there's always going to be someone that's going to disagree. And most people won't agree with decisions you make that are best for you. And in my book, Indispensable Games of X's and O's, one of the last chapters I wrote, it was not in my outline, was I discovered grace. When my mother ran off to choose her life, she left my father with children, and 3 that he did not bring in the world, that he helped raise. And when she came back in my life, I had to own my mother's own story. She made the best decision that was based on her, and I had to live with that. Even though I carried around a lot of heavy lifting, it wasn't necessary for me to carry it around. But now that I understand it, when you find grace. So for those of us that are listening to this quote, and based on the interpretation perspective of this quote, and I'll repeat it, I am grateful that my heart is honest. For I know the life I want to live, and I will not settle for less. My feelings must be validated and emotionally free from my own personal drama. To be free, you must own your own mistakes. And so, Denise, I know you're not feeling well this morning, so I'm going to start with you and allow you to sit back and relax and listen. How does this quote land?
Sorry.
That's okay.
This quote is it's deep because you have to be grown enough to admit your own mistakes and face them. When you do something wrong, you need to be able to apologize and make things right with the people that you did wrong. And some people, they don't want to admit their mistakes, and it keeps going hurting people. So when you admit your mistakes too, you free yourself from that too, from all the hurt, from all being feeling less than sometimes, and feeling that you hurt someone, but you can't admit it because you stubborn, or you just like, no, I didn't do that. I didn't do that. But when you admit your own mistakes, life gets easier too, especially with your children. For me, with my divorce too, I made a lot of decisions based on my children, but they were small. So when they got old, I got to talk to them, and that's why I had an open letter to my children that I wrote for my book. That was the opening of my book, and I had to read it to them and explain certain things. They still don't understand because they don't remember a lot of this stuff, but they were glad that I was able to sit down and talk to them. And too, with other people, when I was going through my divorce, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I shut down, and I had to explain to people that I go through stuff by myself. And if I needed their help, I would ask. But a lot of people were mad at me. They were like, you needed help. You should have asked. And I had to apologize for that because that was my own growth. I had to go through it by myself. It was my journey. So I think when you apologize, you're the bigger person. It makes things easier for you and everybody else. And it makes things go, like you'll be able to go on knowing that you may try to make things right, even if people don't accept your apology.
And I appreciate that, and that's well taken. Ife, being the one of the youths on this panel outside of Kayla, we got some good news coming from Kayla. This quote, gratitude, validating your own feelings and being emotionally free from your own personal drama. This quote, how does it land on you?
Well, the first part catches my attention. People come into situations and don't have an honest heart, meaning, in my opinion, pure intentions. Like, what are you exactly here for? What do you have going on, and how are you going about it in the manner that is most natural and means the most to you? Too many people are walking around trying to be a version of somebody else when there's only one you. So I really feel like this quote is just a level of knowing what you want, going for what you want, but then also making sure that you own the process. And a lot of times we try to run away or say, hey, I have a past that I'm not proud of. Those mistakes got us to where we are now, whether they were good, bad, or somewhere in between, because we are pretty much a representation of all the choices that we decided to make, or the choices that we decided not to make. So that's how the quote landed on me.
All right, thank you for that. Thank you. Andrea, Lyman.
Good morning.
Yeah. Good morning. Good morning.
Let me see. I like what Ife said about the honest, people being honest about who they are. That's very true. Let me see. I am grateful. I hope my heart is honest. You know, sometimes you're not even honest with yourself. You know, you think you think you want something, or you think you are a certain person, and then you find out maybe not so much. So it's a goal to always be honest and honest with myself. But you know, I do the best that I can. I know what I want from this life. That is not always true. Sometimes I know, and sometimes I do not. Day to day, I don't even necessarily know what my top goal is. Is it movies? Is it theater? You know, the small things. I think I want things like romance, but maybe I don't. So that kind of thing is hard. And settling for less, I feel like I do that a lot, but sometimes you don't know if you're settling or if you're realistic or if this is part of the path. I obviously, I guess my it's going like this today, but it's just the way my life goes. I don't always know if am I settling for this job? Do I need to take this job? I don't know. Some things I love and some things I don't. And let's see, my feelings must be validated. My feelings are not validated a lot of the time. And emotionally free from personal drama. And I feel like personal drama is part of living, and free of my own mistakes. And one thing I do is I do admit my mistakes, especially when raising kids, when raising my nephew, because I wanted him to know, oh, I made a mistake here, and know what it is. You make a mistake and then you go on. You know, that's part of life. And in that way you are honest. I know that was kind of babbling. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Believe it or not, when you know, it said, you know, the first statement is, I am grateful that my heart is honest. You know, the whole conversation you had was the truth from your heart, you know, to validate your own shortcomings, and to acknowledge that at some point, you know, you don't have all the answers. That is honest. You know, some of us pretend to be something that we're not. And then when we're discovered who are not, we struggle with the truth of who we are. So that was, I mean, you hit every single quote. You know, like I said, you know, for me to have a 26-year-old child, he's going to be 27 tomorrow, you know, to have this conversation. I've always told my kids, I will always be honest with you. Sometimes uncomfortable conversations are conversations that are necessary to be had. And I say this at the end of every show. You know, education is not designed to make you comfortable, but it's designed to make you think. And sometimes people make you think on another level you're not prepared to think on. So, you know, I'm just being honest. I'm sharing. This was the first thought. You know, so 300 quotes are growing every single day because I write every single day. Mr. Dave Curtis. I know the quote seems heavy today. You may have a different spin on it. So, Mr. Dave Curtis. I am grateful that my heart is honest, for I know what I want from this life and will not settle for less. You have to be old in order to balance out this quote and see that. My feelings must be validated and emotionally free from my own personal drama. To be free, you must own your own mistakes. David.
Believe it or not, Kevin, good morning, everyone, first of all. It's good to see everyone, and to those listening as well. Thank you for being here. Believe it or not, Kevin, the way that, and Andrea, she can attest to this, the way that I've something that I found out about Andrea last year when I was working with her on our film, is that my mind automatically goes to comedy. Whenever I read something heavy, that's a defense mechanism. And that's how I write. I write funny. Skits pop in my head all the time. And I was trying my hardest to read this quote and not go to the funny. That was one battle. But when I got down to it, I realized that, you know, each one of these sentences is so powerful. Each one of the sentences is like a 20-minute conversation, each one. And to try to surmise that quote into, you know, an answer is like, it's for me, it's impossible because I could go on and on about each sentence. But the one thing that rings true in this quote and statement is that I think I practice gratefulness every day, more than every day. It's like every time, you know, that I find my mind going into in a complaining mode, it's like, but you know something, I'm grateful that this happened because blankety blank. I try to practice that so much. As far as what I want, you know, I'm narrowing it down from being a person that, you know, not to brag or anything, that has, you know, multiple talents. I'm narrowing it down because of my bandwidth of being able to do them. So that list is being narrowed down, and will not settle for less. Yeah. I do know what I want, and there are some things about knowing what I want that the other fluff or whatever is like, I'm not putting up with it, or I'm not having it, you know. The rest of the sentences about owning mistakes, it makes me think of, you know, there's a little bit of a discord within my family, and I think a lot of it comes from number one, you know, folks not owning up to their mistakes, and two, there's a lot of pain, like for years, and people too afraid to address it. That's what I find most of all is there's a lot of pain in that, and to get over it, you have to address it, and most people are too afraid to address the fear, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I've come up with.
Yeah, it's amazing. The quote or each sentence carries a little bit of a story for each one of us, and each one of us can probably attach a personal experience to each one of those. I'm going to share something with you that, you know, I mentor a couple of college students that have a podcast, and I shared this conversation. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you. I have a sibling that when I was growing up, I adored. He was always better built than I was, didn't have to put in the work. He was a lot more talented as an athlete than I was. And I spent a lot of my childhood as a young athlete, as an individual, trying to be like him, you know, to get that attention. They always say that, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, and he was my father's favorite. At least that's the way I interpreted it, the way that he was treated, and I was always trying to be that. And as an adult, my life has shined, you know, compared to if he was to put apples to oranges. And one day, you know, I've heard this said by other siblings. He shared that, you know, I thought I was better than them. And I know with some of my young academic students that I mentor, they hear this all the time. You think you're better than we are because, you know, you're receiving such accolades. School comes easy for you. You came up in this life or whatever. And you can attach this story to anybody's life. But I remember the one day that I was brave enough to be honest, not only with myself, but with him. Is that because it hurt me so bad when he told me personally. I had heard it secondhand, but never said personally. He says, "You think you're better than I am." And I paused for a while, and your business is called A Long Dramatic Pause. And I came back and I said, you know something? And to be honest with you, you're right. I said, I do think I'm better than you. I said, my whole entire life, I looked up to you. You're a better basketball player. You know, I had dreamed when I put on a football uniform that we were going to play together, you know, and be brothers, be that story, that Brian song story. You quit in order to run the streets. I said, you fell short of your goals. And I continued to chase mine. And when I looked at him, I said, you were everything I wanted to be until I saw who you didn't want to be. I said, you're right. I do think I'm better than you because you gave up on you. And we have people that come into our lives all the time that try to find fault within us, try to pull us down, to drag us down to their levels. But you've always got to ask yourself, you know, does a beach come to the ocean or does the ocean come to the beach? There's always going to be a problem that's going to happen. There's always going to be someone that's either going to celebrate your success. There's always going to be someone that's close to you that are going to condemn you for your success. That cycle is never changed. I just watched The Woman King for the first time. This month is the month of the woman. I praise every single female that we have on this platform because you are the original queens and you are the original kings, because there cannot be a king if a queen doesn't allow him the privilege to share the domain or to conquer whatever the story may be. So I'm all about the power of women, because if it wasn't for a woman, Naheem, David, Ife, or myself would not be here. You are God's gift to this world. You're the only individual that can bring a life into this world. You're the only individual, and all women, in order to justify this life in the world. Men, we are the carpenters of the building that's going to be built. Women are the shepherds of the flock that we have. So we need to be grateful and recognize that.
Mr. Kevin?
Yes, ma'am. Oh,
Can
you can.
I?
Yes, you can.
Yes. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. I kind of want to speak to a couple of thoughts. I was just listening and trying to collect my thoughts, and I really think that owning up to mistakes and not being afraid to ask people about your mistakes or how you made them feel is a level of vulnerability that a lot of people do not possess. I'm only 22 and I still get uncomfortable with not asking people, because I want to make sure that what I'm putting out into the atmosphere, what I'm putting out into the world is positive. It's going to contribute to the future of scientists, the future of authors, you know, painters, whoever it is. I want to contribute to that foundation. And so when I babysit or when I'm look after my little cousins or my nieces and nephews or whoever it is, and they always ask me things. They're always like, Kayla, can you tell me about this? And I never shy away from questions, because those are the type of questions that made me where I am today. And those are the type of questions that will continue to make future generations to come. And so when they ask me, like, how's school going? Sometimes I'll be like, it's hard. It's really difficult, but it's worth it. Or if they ask me, how was that test that you took? Or we know that you were working on a project. How was that? And I'll say, I loved it. It was so much fun, but there were some challenges. I always try to give the flip side of the coin. And so whenever I make a mistake, I'm never afraid to tell younger kids, like, Kayla made a mistake. Even though it's very clear I made a mistake, I always want to communicate that. And again, that's love or vulnerability that a lot of people do not possess. And me and Mr. Kevin were actually talking about this earlier, and he was telling me exactly, like, how he approached his thoughts after watching The Woman King. And I think it's movies like that that are going to continue to pave the way of fearless women in a lot of different professions. And I am just proud and I'm blessed to be a part of that. I'm proud and blessed to be a part of a situation to where I can speak, I can say what I want to say, but I can also my work speaks for itself as well. So it's just a blessing to be a woman in this point in time, because I know what I am able to contribute to society, not only as a mentor or as a babysitter or as an auntie or as an older cousin or a sister or a daughter, but also as a academic, also as a scholar, also as a scientist. I think there's so many sides to people that we just fail to want to understand because we're intimidated or we're afraid or we're taken aback. But people that can say, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, or they can say, if you have a problem with me, please communicate that with me. Though that type of vulnerability and that type of gratitude of being yourself, that is a type of self-awareness that I'm learning a lot of people do not have. And so that's what I took away from the quote. And that's what I took away from it being Women's Month. And that's just kind of my perspective on things. And so I just want to continue to be a shining light in people's lives.
And thank you. And Kayla, please forgive me for not acknowledging you, because I know you're babysitting, so your camera wasn't on, so I wasn't for sure if you were able to chime in, and I appreciate that. So with that said, there's a lot of positive that is going on. I know this quote was a little heavy for some of us, and it took us back. I know for me, it laid on my heart, but the nice thing about putting something out in the world, it lightens the load. Denise has just came back from the motherland. She competed, and she brought back a little uncomfortable feeling. Denise, give us an update of how everything was.
It was
petition.
It was awesome, but the judges were not fair. So the queen, I think she should have won. We should have won the group for the carnival, but it's always like that. It's politics, it's money. You know how that goes. But it was fun. I was on the float. I was on the floor the first night. It was good. It was fun,
Right.
But it was hot over there. When I came, it was -1, and I
Now, where'd
didn't
you
have
go?
my winter jacket. So I was waiting for the bus at Boston Logan Airport. So that's how I got sick.
All right.
I did not have my
Where were you
jacket.
competing at? Where were you competing at?
We're Cape Verde Islands, west coast of Africa.
All right. That's why I said she went back to the motherland.
Yeah. And another thing too, I had one more license to do for my teaching, and I passed it. So I got my preliminary license and my initial license because I had done my pre-practicum and all my classes. So back in 2010. So I sent it in. I called the lady, so she uploaded to the Department of Education. So they gave me my initial license, which is 10 years. So now I have to apply for my professional, and I don't have to take any more MTELs.
All right. Congratulations. Andrew, last week you were wrapping up in some movies. Any updates as far as, you and David are living my dream, because you guys are working actors. Give us any updates of what's going on in your world?
Yesterday I did something for there's a directing class, and they have you choose a monologue from a TV show or a movie, which I was looking for comedy and couldn't find one, but I ended up doing something from Grey's Anatomy. We filmed it yesterday, and I love Grey's Anatomy. So it was one of those Bailey, if you watch the show, one of those where Bailey's just, telling somebody, reading somebody the riot act.
Oh my goodness, I love Grey's Anatomy so much. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So I was so happy to do. This is the one where, if you know the show, then where Bailey's supposed to say she's sorry for firing Dr. Roy. And then she turns it around and says, nah, you know what? You're lucky to be here.
Just watch that episode.
You did?
Yes,
wow,
literally.
okay.
I rewatched Grey's Anatomy religiously. So yes.
Wow. So that's the monologue we taped yesterday. I had so much fun doing it. And other than that, lots and lots of SAG-AFTRA meetings coming up, and Secret Society of Black Creatives meetings, and a lot of meetings. So sometimes I look at my calendar and it's full, but nobody's paying me. So I need to get more of that.
I'll write the people that are responsible for the creative part to start paying some of these actors so they can make a living. I'm since this is Women's Month, Kayla, you've got some good stuff going on, and I know you shared it within a text, but we're going to put it out in the world. Congratulations in advance. What's going on with you, Kayla?
Thank you so much. So I got accepted into a Harvard summer internship for astronomy. It's actually astrophysics. So yeah, it was really exciting to kind of put myself out there and kind of challenge myself with that. It was very selective. And even though I couldn't accept it due to a prior commitment to another internship, it definitely boosted my confidence a lot. And so I love research, I love science, and it's a blessing that I was able to participate in the application process and that I stood out to them. And so yeah, I just want to throw it out there for any future students that want to go into anything they want to go into, even if it's a school that you think is a reach for you, just try. You never know what's going to happen. And I've worked really hard to remain very humble and diligent and continue to have my work speak for itself. And so it was really nice that someone else saw that in me. So
That's all right. Well, congratulations from your family here on Motivational Sundays with Kevin. For those of you that are tuning in, Kayla Smith is one of our college ambassadors. She has a podcast, The Real Life of College Life. And because she's about to graduate, her podcast is The Next Level. And we talk about the experiences that young people go through in college. And basically, it's one of those things that is unscripted. We talk about real life, real experiences, the positives, the negatives, and whatever. So it gives if you've always wanted to be a fly on the wall in someone else's life, enjoy. Don't bring any pesticides with you because we don't want to kill the dream. And step into Kayla's life. Ife, that entrepreneur, that go-to guy. I love your tagline, that go-to guy. He's the guy, if you need him, he's there. Music entrepreneur. How you doing, Ife?
Doing pretty good. I'm glad to be around intelligent, caring, thoughtful people this morning. Here in the Carolinas, and just doing my thing. And everyone else has announcements. I'm here, y'all. That's all I got for right now. Maybe I need a cup of coffee or something, but I'm here.
All right. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up. I always have something on my plate. I've got 24 to 23 drawings for my next book. I got to get the world ready for you. I'm also working on a workshop, which I will be announcing. It'll be called Failure to Launch, How to Get Shit Done. So for those of you that are planning a business, trying to quit your job or whatever, I am going to give a workshop on how to get to that next level and go from there. And that will be accompanied by the book, How to Get Stuff Done. So those are two books I've got. And to my listeners, as always, I am thankful. Every single week we pop in with a quote that's brought into one of us. Sometimes it's very light, sometimes it's very heavy, and it makes you think. We meet every Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you like what you've heard, I ask you to share. Go to RMK Productions and Network on our YouTube page. Make a comment. Give us any feedback on how we can improve. If you'd like to get in touch with you or be on the show, go to info@rmkproductions.org. Fill out your information. We will send you the Zoom link. Everyone is welcome. Unless you're bringing drama, you're not welcome. And just remember this. Now, my grandfather always said, when you get to a place in life when you can help someone else, it is your duty to do so. Reach one, teach one, and find 1,000 reasons to be kind to someone, and we'll fade to black. Thank you, everybody. Until next time.